Hello and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into one of the most exciting and, let's be honest, kind of scary steps a company can take, going global. The opportunity? It's absolutely massive, but the margin for error is razor thin. So, how do you actually get it right?
Okay, so things are going well. Your brand is killing it. You're starting to look at a bigger map, and this is the question that's probably keeping you up at night. That pull of new markets, new customers, new revenue, it's powerful. But are you truly ready for what it takes to compete and win in a whole new ballgame?
Because, and this is so important, what works in one place can be a complete disaster somewhere else. I mean, think about it. A campaign in the US that's all about aspiration, running on YouTube, that could get totally ignored in Japan, where you need a much more respectful tone and a completely different set of platforms. This goes way beyond just translating words. You have to translate your entire strategy.
And this is why we call it the global growth maze. You know, from the outside, it looks like a nice, straight path to success. But once you're on the ground, you realize it's packed with hidden turns, unexpected traps, and very expensive dead ends that can just suck your budget dry and grind your momentum to a halt.
And these are the classic pitfalls that trip up even the smartest companies. You accidentally launch a campaign that's culturally tone-deaf. Oops. You get completely tied up in regulatory red tape you had no idea even existed. You blow your budget on social media channels your customers don't even use. The end result is pretty much always the same: a weaker brand and a really painful hit to your bottom line.
So how in the world do you get through this maze without getting hopelessly lost? Well, you don't go it alone. You bring in a guide. And for this journey, that strategic guide is what we call a fractional CMO.
So, what even is a fractional CMO? The easiest way to think about it is getting a top-tier, world-class marketing executive, but on demand. You get the brainpower, the strategy, the experience of someone who's done this before, launched brands in different countries, but you get it without the massive cost and long-term commitment of a full-time C-suite hire. It's all about getting that senior-level expertise right when you need it most.
And look, the real value is way more than just tactical. They help you move way beyond just translating your website. They're there to build a whole localization framework. Their entire job is to make sure your brand's message actually connects with a local culture. And, critically, to help you sidestep all those expensive mistakes we just talked about.
Okay, so how do they do it? It's not magic, and it's definitely not guesswork. They use a proven structured approach called the International Playbook. This is the roadmap, the framework that lets you walk into a new market with precision and, maybe most importantly, with confidence.
The real beauty of the playbook is how simple and logical it is. First, you don't bet the farm. You start small. Pick a test market and prove that your product actually works there. Second, you localize everything, and I mean everything: the words, the pictures, the user experience, the whole shebang. And third, you tackle compliance from day one. Get ahead of all the data privacy and advertising rules so there are no nasty legal surprises down the road.
And this table right here, this shows you just how deep that localization has to go. It's fascinating, right? In Germany, you got to be formal and direct. People pay with Klarna or bank transfers. In the US, it's all aspirational, casual, and credit card driven. Then you go to India, and it's all about value, and people are paying with UPI on WhatsApp. This is what it's all about, adapting to how people actually behave and buy things, not how you assume they do.
All right, this all sounds pretty good on paper, but does this playbook thing actually work in the real world? Let's take a look at a case study and see for ourselves. So, meet Vance. They're a fintech app that's all about making international banking easier. Their big challenge was expanding into the super competitive markets in the UAE and Southeast Asia, places where regulations and how users behave are just incredibly different from one spot to the next. They needed a really sharp, localized plan to have any chance of breaking through.
So what happened? First off, they saw a huge uplift in the quality of their leads. This is key. By tailoring their message for each market, they stopped just attracting anyone and everyone. Instead, they started attracting the right customers, the people who were a perfect fit for what they offered.
And of course, when you get better leads, that flows right into the next win, a much, much lower customer acquisition cost, or CAC. They weren't just throwing money at generic, one-size-fits-all campaigns anymore. Every single dollar was working harder because the ads, the landing pages, the message, it was all designed to connect with that specific audience.
And that brings us to the biggest win of all. They could scale faster. This wasn't just a one-hit wonder. They had built a repeatable, data-driven machine for growth, a system they could now use to roll into the next market and the one after that,
with speed and a whole lot of confidence.
So let's bring this all home. What does all of this mean for you and your brand? Let's boil it all down to the most important takeaways you can use for your own global ambitions.
All right, number one, please remember that going global is a deep strategic challenge. It is not just a translation project. Number two, deep localization. Really adapting to the culture, the behaviors, the payment methods. That's how you build trust. That's how you build relevance. And that's how you get a real ROI. Third, having a playbook like this takes all the guesswork out of it and turns what feels like a huge, scary goal into something precise and achievable. And finally, having an experienced guide, like a fractional CMO, can be the absolute key to making it through that maze successfully.
And that brings us right back to where we started. You already know your brand has global potential. That's the easy part. The real question is this: is your strategy ready for it? Thanks for joining us on The Explainer.